And what were you saying about support?
Well, we have been trying to because we've had offers to go into mortuaries, to go into home health attorneys that do family planning, and we don't want to do it electronically. The kinds of things that
What she's talking about is Zoom meetings.
Zoom meetings are not, especially if it's a Zoom meeting that's intimate, that where the person has come to you hoping for some kind of emotional release and support. We want to be able to do therapy groups like we used to do in the AIDS community, where at UCI, at all the large medical facilities, but in person.
Right.
It's kind of like the AA community have been cut off as well.
Yeah.
And
there are those of us who don't really like the technology.
yeah.
We understand its value, but we don't necessarily like it for things of this nature. There's a value to being in person,
In the room.
and
yes.
there's a value to having all of your senses kind of picking up what's going on with someone who's having a hard time.
Well, especially group therapy, Michael, because group therapy works because it's a group.
Right.
Because we're emotionally, if something taps into you, you're getting support in a totally different way.
Right. The challenge with the technology is that you're only getting to see a person's face. You don't get to see their body language.
Yeah.
You don't get to see how what they're doing that you can't see.
Right.
Because there's a lot to be said for how we place ourselves and how we hold ourselves.
So one of our goals is to go into the medical community for people that are in crisis. The person that's experienced 200 deaths in the last year, who's fried, so that we can preserve their profession, so that they don't suddenly not show up for work or walk away, as the 200th patient that they're saying goodbye to, where they just drop everything and walk out. We don't want that. We want to be able to help them
stay in the work, because
work.
that's really the challenge, and I think that is.
And it's not just physicians and RNs. It's the CNA. It's the housekeeper that comes into the room. I mean, there's so many layers in a hospital environment or any kind of a care facility environment, and every layer needs to be taken care of.
One of the things that I have found as a challenge through this pandemic has been the quote-unquote guidelines that a lot of facilities are operating under, which has basically said that it's okay to prevent people from any intimate contact with their family members. I get it.
Go over that again.
When you have been told you cannot visit your family member who is seriously ill in a hospital setting or in a skilled nursing facility or some other facility, because they either can't protect you or can't protect the other residents, and that we're concerned about contagion. And so what we do is we completely block people from being seen by people who can actually help them.
Yeah.
I have, and I've loosely been keeping track of this over the last year, I have at least 15 families where I was dealing with an adult child who had lost mother and father within weeks or months of one another, both of whom they never got to say goodbye, because they were in skilled nursing facility. They were seriously ill, but not dying, but they had something going on that was serious, and everybody knew it, including the family, because they were being kept appraised by someone within the facility to alert them to the things that were going on.
But the family member could not participate.
So one of the things that I think that the hospital did as best as it could was allowing people to come in when patients were either placed on comfort measures or on hospice in the hospital.
Okay, and Michael, when they did that, what was the number that were allowed to come in?
2 people at a time.
Okay.
And so if you had three adult children, you get to pick which 2 get to visit.
Oh.
In some places,
Could you rotate?
well, in some places you could rotate, in others, still to this day, and I won't say names, because I happen to disagree with how they've set it up, but they would make it so that the 2 people were the same 2 people continuously, so that they were not, there was some concern about, more than 2 people, more than 2 total people would be a problem. So what we found also in skilled nursing facilities that they would wait until the person was actively dying before they let a family member come into the facility. I wrote an article that was published just this past week that talked about me going to facilities and not being allowed in to see my patients because I was considered non-essential.
Good God.
Oh yeah, I was not kind. I was not kind in my assessment
No,
or
I'm sure you
evaluation of
weren't.
those
And
places.
you shouldn't have been.
And I think that those of us who do this work and have been doing this work for a very long time, to be considered non-essential is insulting.
Well, the family at this point desperately needs you because you're the holder of the information
Right.
that can relieve so much of the suffering of the people who's
Right.
left behind.
And
It's not just the patient.
some people would say, well, Michael, you could do this by Zoom. And it's like, it's not the same.
No.
I find it very difficult to have an intimate conversation on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
It's inappropriate. You can do,
Well, Michael, you can't see what else is going on in the room.
Right.
If you've got 5 or 6 people and you're addressing a question has come up and you're addressing your answer, you've got peripheral vision that allows you to scope
yeah.
the reactions of the other up to 10, 12 people sometimes.
Right. Well, on a meeting like that, but I mean, obviously, if you can handle it when you're in person.
Yes, exactly.
But when you're not allowed to be in person,
your focus
and,
this way.
and I think the thing is that well-meaning people understand that this is wrong. My problem is that they never did anything to correct it. And I know I will run into people who would disagree with me because it was more about protecting people. I understand that.
You can protect them to
I
death.
I get it. I want to reassure people that as a social worker working in an inpatient setting with COVID patients in almost every single room, I'm in a soup of contagion.
Yes.
And I never was positive. There may be something specific about me and the work that I do, but I'm not catching it by breathing it in the air.
No.
The masks that you need to have if this was that bad would be the N95, and you'd have to wear that all the time and wherever you were. I never had an N95 mask on. I also wasn't physically going into rooms. That was the one thing where I didn't need to go into the room. I actually could see the person who was obtunded and non-responsive from the window. I didn't need to go in and experience that 5 feet away when I could see it.
Yeah, that's different if you do have a patient that's responsive.
Well,
and
yes.
and then in the parking lot you've got family members.
Right. One of the things that I chose to do was I chose to go out into the parking lot and have therapy group.
Right.
And so I can tell you that the number of times that I did that, I believe very strongly that it was extremely important for that family to have had someone come out and hear them.
Yeah.
I didn't have any control over what happened next, but for them to have been heard, for them to have been able to ask questions, and for them to be able to go through this process, that was valuable.
Yes.
That was valuable, and it was.
Well, you know the difference. You know the difference when you do have access to both the patient and the family, and when you don't, because this crisis has forced decisions that nobody wants to have to make.
No, and I can tell you that most people that I've dealt with through this process have been understanding.
Mm-hmm.
They've not been screaming and yelling. There's not been a lot of drama. This is certainly very traumatic for them to not be able to
Say
touch
goodbye. Yeah.
their family member, to get touched back.
Mm-hmm.
There's little or no intimacy with FaceTime or Zoom.
Yeah.
Families
And
accepted that and did it.
and some patients are incapable because of the where they are in their
Yeah.
process.
I can tell you the numbers of families that actually FaceTimed a very seriously ill person, a family member, with other people around the U.S. or other parts of the world using the technology.
Mm-hmm.
There was a value to that. However, it was, we're essentially filming someone who's dying.
Yeah.
And the patients were not necessarily alert enough to respond or capable of responding.
Mm-hmm.
But families felt that they needed to show that to their family members that were other parts of the world. And so I understood it, but I can't imagine how that felt to do that.
We have a lot of people who have never seen anyone die. There's a big difference in even walking into a room after a death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, most people have never seen a dead body. And it is shocking, can be shocking. They can be damaged sometimes, the family member
Mm-hmm.
or the mate. We go through our whole lives. We don't even witness an animal die anymore in our society. So I suppose at least if you're on Zoom, it is some kind of closure.
I think that the visual and the sounds and all of that stuff were certainly valuable to that family member who was at a great distance, who knew that they could not come without being restricted.
And if they're that far away, Michael, they have not been in the patient's
Right.
life as they were processed or
Right,
going
right.
through their disease.
And I think that the trauma for families will go on for a long time.
I think so too.
And they may never recover.
Yeah.
Because of what they've experienced.
Well,
Yeah.
if you and I have both been around lots of people who say, oh my God, the person I loved went through this horrific death. They blow the process up, where you and I could look at their situation and say, actually, the patient died in the natural course of things.
Right.
This was not an extreme death. But because we as a society don't witness that, don't go through the process of that, everything becomes overly dramatic.
I'm smiling
Yes.
because people will often ascribe to the patient that they suffered.
Yes.
And that at the end that they were still suffering, when in reality the patient was not suffering.
Right.
The family was suffering.
Suffering, yeah. Because they don't know the difference.
And they may ascribe that to the patient because that's what they've come to expect.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's really them. And they're the ones that are damaged. They're the ones that we have to take care of. And we have to at least acknowledge that they have been damaged by this experience.
Yes.
I can tell you that there is a difference for people who witness the death happening,
right,
and the ones who come
don't.
in afterwards.
Yes.
There's a difference in how they feel it, how they've experienced it, and how they report that experience.
And if they've been through the disease process with them, and I'm talking close,
Yeah.
I'm talking maybe several times a week or daily, then that too lessens the drama. We're funny beings. We don't like bad news, Michael.
No,
Okay.
we don't.
You want to?
That was long.